Yeah, there's a lot of room to pass on this racetrack. Scott Frazier, great note, Rick. He has led all 4 races that he started this year, and we saw that banner. The people from his hometown actually contributed. They paid money to sign that banner, went to a worthy cause, and they're excited in Shubenacadie, as well they should be.
They should be. Scott Frazier has been super impressive at every turn. All 4 races that he has made this year for the ASA ACDelco Series. Battle for second, though, starting to rage. Mike Garvey in the Tecumseh Chevrolet. Garvey today on the run from 4th starting spot. He's 3rd. He wants to get by Johnny Sauter for 2nd. Downstairs to Bob Dillner.
We're down here at Scott Frazier's pit. You know, a lot of people are wondering, why is Scott Frazier so fast? I asked Mike Miller the other day. He told me the kid knows no fear. He's only been on tracks a half mile in length and smaller. I asked Scott Frazier that very same question. He said he has no brains right now. So the crew put this little sign on their pit wall. Relax, Scott.
If you remember the race at Chicago Motor Speedway back 7 or 8 weeks ago, back in the month of June, Frazier led early, many laps there, faded out of contention in the mid-portion of the race. Mike Garvey got by and dominated. Similar scenario could be brewing here. Frazier has taken a wide lead. He's nearly a second ahead of Johnny Sauter, who did not run in Chicago. But Mike Garvey sits 3rd in the Tecumseh black #1 car right there out of the LeFevre Racing stables. And Garvey is going to swing outside. Sauter will move up to block him now as they battle down the backstretch. Garvey showing plenty of patience. Sauter pushing up the racetrack, Steve, as they dove into 3 there.
Yeah, you can see as he goes down, the car walks down the bottom. It's going to push itself up. And the problem that Johnny Sauter has there, Rick, is he doesn't want to fight the steering wheel. He's going to have to let it drift up, but he loses speed when he does that.
Garvey rides 3rd. Frazier is your leader. Johnny Sauter is 2nd. Quite a distance back to 4th place. Gary St.Amant not yet appearing in our picture. We'll show him to you in a couple of moments. Almost a full straightaway behind the 2nd and 3rd place cars. For St.Amant with that huge point lead, 326 markers now, all he needs to do is ride and be comfortable and competitive. He does not need to be up front battling, beating and banging, trying to win a lot more races. He won his 2nd of the year last week. These are the cars behind the top 3. Scott Wimmer in the black 05 rides 4th. Rick Beebe has just gotten around St.Amant for 5th, and Gary will tuck into 6th in the Wins Goodwrench Chevrolet, carrying our USAMeets.com onboard camera today. So St.Amant up the backstretch. Talked to Gary yesterday at length, Stephen. He was saying this is a racetrack that was never kind to him up until about 2 years ago when he started to run well here.
Great point, Rick. You know, you look at his statistics here. He has 20 starts, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s. His best finish is a 2nd, but he's never won. As great of a racer as Gary St.Amant is, he's never won here at Milwaukee.
Knows he wants to put a good finish on the board today in the Bud Gibbons Chevrolet, and right now St.Amant is back in 6th position as we watch the lead cars go down the backstretch. Rick Beebe looks very strong here today. Now, this is a track where Jerry Gunderman's team has excelled over the years. They own the 23 car, the All-Star Racing Pontiac for Beebe. Beebe has certainly had a tough season so far, but if there's a place where you can expect them to get healthy, it could be here at the Milwaukee Mile. Beebe takes a look on Wimmer down the front stretch, looking for a position now. This is for 4th spot.
You know, Rick, you said a moment ago they've had tough luck. Rick Beebe, one of those teams, they've run well, but they just can't finish a race. Came in here 12th in points. Again, they've run well, but they have bad luck. They get involved in a wreck, mechanical problems, what have you. They just can't put it all together.
But maybe this will be the day for Rick Beebe, the Rocket Man, out of Kansas. Your leader, Scott Frazier, in the 00 machine. He is continuing to post a very fast pace. Johnny Sauter is 2nd. Mike Garvey rounds out the first 3 at Milwaukee. Back live at the Milwaukee Mile in West Allis, Wisconsin. The Time Warner Cable 200 today for the ASA ACDelco Series here on TNN Sports. Leaders are on the backstretch, already catching some slower traffic. Scott Frazier from Nova Scotia, Canada, the 00, is out in front. Right behind him, Johnny Sauter, the pole sitter, runs 2nd of the 93. And then 3-time winner this season, Mike Garvey in the Tecumseh Chevrolet lines up 3rd. Driver who started 5th today. A lot of us thought that Butch Miller would be a contender here this afternoon, but he's been on pit road already, Jim Trano. What's the problem?
Crew Chief Chip Caputo says the car was not leaking. However, ASA thought he was leaking fluid. The car did smell of transmission fluid, but you can understand when they changed the rear end grease is changed out of the engine, out of the rear end as well. So the smell of the car had nothing to do with what was not leaking. They were pleading their case. Why did we get black under green? We're not leaking fluid. We're not leaking fluid. There was a 5-minute discussion with Chip Caputo and ASA Tech Director Joe Ballish. Don't know who won that one, but Butch obviously lost out on the long run because it's under green and he lost the lap.
Butch Miller back on the racetrack. The original thought, Steve, as we documented at the top of the broadcast, they discovered the rear end had locked up in the car. They brought the car off the grid back to the garage area, changed the rear end, put a new one in there, and then ASA officials put the black flag out for the 52 a few moments ago.
You know, and that's a tough break, Rick, because Butch told us during the race day broadcast this morning he had a car fast enough to sit on the pole. Said he left a tenth of a second on the racetrack and felt like he was going to be a factor to win.
Butch back in 37th spot. The car obviously pushing a little bit. Amazingly, this is the car that caught fire in that violent wreck in Nashville back in May.
Yeah, Butch calls himself Butch Barbecue Miller because that baby burned to the ground without the aid of Kingsford charcoal.
Exactly.
On a full tank of gas. And it is amazing. Same race car you see burning from week number 5, or race number 5 rather, out there on the racetrack.
Butch shown back in 37th spot right now. Did lose a lap to the leaders. If there's a guy in this place who's capable of making up a lap here at the Milwaukee Mile, it is Butch Miller. But at the moment, we've had a very clean race. Coming up on 30 miles on the board next time by, and we've been caution-free so far. If you were with us last Saturday night at Madison International, just down the road in Wisconsin, we were yellow before we had a quarter of a lap on the board when Robbie Pyle got together with Scott Wimmer in the first turn after the drop of the green.
Hey,
show you the lead cars coming through turn 4 here.
I'm going to make a point, Rick. Talking to Robbie Pyle, I talked to him yesterday, as I know you did, and I heard him say something I've never heard a race car driver say. He said, I made a mistake.
Yeah, he said, I'm sorry.
Oh,
trouble right away. We do have a car spinning up between turns 1 and 2. It's the 63 car in some difficulty. The 63 of Brian Schwartz from Countryside, Illinois. That's the Minuteman Convenience Stores Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Schwartz evidently made contact with the wall or with someone else down on the inside of 1 and 2. Spins the car up the racetrack. Nobody hits him. And Schwartz will refire the machine. He'll have to come to pit road, though, because the front bodywork obviously pulled off the car on the right-hand side. So just as we say, we've been caution-free. 30 laps are on the board. Our first caution of the afternoon here at the Milwaukee Mile. Show it to you one more time. We do have a look at how this transpired down in turns 1 and 2. Perhaps a solo spin. Yeah, there's one car in there. Looked as though the 63 was inside the 36 machine, and as he turned into the inside wall, perhaps a little contact that knocked that front bodywork loose. The 36 also involved Craig Smith from Godfrey, Illinois, the B&J Asphalt Pontiac. So Schwartz will bring the 63 car down on pit road. They will realign the front fiberglass and get him ready to come back up onto the racetrack. Caution with 31 miles complete here at Milwaukee. Back at the Milwaukee Mile under caution, a reminder for you, check out wrenchhead.com on the World Wide Web. They're the online automotive superstore with millions of replacement parts, performance parts, and accessories. Free shipping, too, from wrenchhead.com with parts online all the time. Scott Frazier has just wired the field here in the early going. Some of the other contenders, strong teams on pit road, taking advantage of this early caution. To Jim Trado.
Tightens car up all the time. Talking to Carl Hyland right now. Carl, your guys started well back in the field. You took the opportunity now under caution. It was almost a necessity.
Yeah, Mike couldn't see. Somebody's leaking fluid, Jim, and we had stopped to clean the windshield, plus the car is extremely loose. But we tightened it up, put some sway bar in, took some bite out of the right rear, and I'll tell you what, for the Jenna King Vortex-powered BF Goodrich Pontiac, I think we'll be all right. Hey, sweetheart.
Carl Hyland came in and brought the car and did not change tires. Scott Hansen, however, in his Victor Ford, changed 4 tires. Brandon Sperling got out with 2 right sides.
Now Mike Miller back up on the speedway. Field realigning, getting ready for a restart here. 33 laps of 200 complete this afternoon. Frazier, Johnny Sauter, the pole sitter, Mike Garvey, Rick Beebe, Scott Wimmer, and Gary St.Amant lining up nose to tail. Their top 6 for the first restart of the afternoon. Steve, I think the story this afternoon, at least in the early going, is going to be whether Frazier can maintain the strong performance he's shown. In Chicago, he was tough for the first 75 laps, had problems after that. We'll see if he can stay quick through the middle section of this race. Green flag back in the air on lap 35.
Rick, you know, we sort of kiddingly said he's from Shubenacadie, Canada, where it is cold and they don't race a lot. But, you know, he raced at the World Series in Smyrna, Florida during Speed Weeks this past winter. He had 2 wins there, 4 tops, 5s, and 6 10s, and that's against good competition.
Some of the best late model drivers from all over the country annually gathered there at New Smyrna Speedway in Florida for the annual World Series events during Speed Weeks. On board board with Gary St.Amant, the USAmeets.com camera inside the Bud Gebben Chevrolet today, running in 7th spot right now. St.Amant qualified 3rd. He's backed up a little bit. Greg Stewart has gotten by him as well, and Joey Clanton is right there. So St.Amant now shuffles back another position to 8th. Gives Stewart 7th spot as they funnel up onto the backstretch. Mike Cope is making a big move as well. Look a little further back. Cope has come from 24th to 9th as we check out Gary St.Amant's record at the Milwaukee Mile. His 21st time to come here. 3 top 5s. Was second a couple of years ago in 1997. There you see Cope back a couple of more spots. You see St.Amant in the yellow car. Joey Clanton in the yellow and blue 83, the EchoSource.com Pontiac. And then Mike Cope in the Florida Auto Auctions machine. Bob Diller, Mike Cope has been strong in his first 2 ASA outings. Hasn't been around for the finish. What about today?
Well, they're hoping he will be today. Cope knows the Milwaukee Mile. He sat on the pole here for an all-pro race a couple of years ago. A race that Tim Sauter won. Yesterday, he didn't qualify well. He said he just plain slipped up. They were very fast, and he thinks he could challenge for the win here today.
You know, Bob just said that Mike Cope has been here in an all-pro car. Well, how about this? He's a 2-time all-pro champion, Mike Cope is, 1994, 96, and was a runner-up in 93 and 95. And Rick, we talked about what a legitimate racer this guy is.
Yeah.
He started the season running in the Truck Series. He's running the NASCAR Busch Series. He is a very talented addition to this series.
He's a full-time racer, has a veteran crew that's been with him through All-Pro and through the Busch Series and through some of them through the Truck Series experience. And they've decided to come to ASA, make a full-fledged effort pointing toward the year 2001. And Cope in the blue and white 3 car is a strong, strong competitor. Great guy, too. And he is to the outside of Joey Clanton, challenging for 8th spot down in turns 1 and 2. Greg Stewart up in the 33, runs 6th. Gary St.Amant is back to 7th. Clanton is 8th. Cope is 9th. And Tim Taylor hanging right in there in 10th spot. Cope to the inside of Clanton now for the position. Clanton motioned him by on the backstretch. He was pushing coming out of the second corner. You can see Joey reach out the driver's side window and tell Cope, go ahead. Now Mike reaches out and waves and says thanks as he whistles down into turn 1.
Joey Clanton's on a roll in that 83. Very talented rookie. Rick, he's finished 4th, 4th, and 6th in his last 3 races. Doing a great job, really developing patience in that number 83.
And there he is in Steve Dale's Pontiac. EchoSource.com, an online vitamin supply house, coming on board as the major sponsor for that team a couple of weeks ago. Back up front, Johnny Sauter in the blue and white 93, the Alec Pinsino Chevrolet, trying to hold off Mike Garvey for second. Garvey in the black number 1, the Tecumseh machine out of Scott Lefever's shops in Minnesota. Up onto the back straightaway. Garvey turns low to try to get a run on Sauter, but can't do it. Steve, you got to wonder about Sauter. Hasn't been active in the series for several weeks. His mirror's being filled with one of the great runners in this series, Garvey. What's Sauter pondering there, trying to hold Garvey at bay?
Hey, remember at Nashville when Johnny Sauter actually led about 40 laps before they got beaten by his older brother? You know, he showed a lot of poise at that time. As he is today, he's just 22 years old, from a long line of racers in that Sauter family.
3rd Sauter to sit on an ASA pole. Dad Jim Sauter had done it years ago. Tim Sauter, the 99 series champion, has done it many times over the years. And now Johnny with his first career pole. And look at this, Steve. How about incentive? He's racing the guy whose car owner fired him back earlier this season. So if there's one car he'd want to beat in the field, it would certainly be the one.
You know, there's 4 Sauters altogether who have raced in the ASA series here in Milwaukee. Brother Jay is the other one. Jay's raced here 15 times. Altogether, listen to this, Rick, 30 races for the Sauter family. They've run a total of 4,800 laps and led 230 of them.
Wow. They know their way around here, to say the least. From Wisconsin, of course, the Sauter family from Necedah. Bob Diller, Johnny Sauter's doing a great job out there hanging on to second. Does he have anything at the moment to get up and challenge Scott Frazier, do you think?
He's pacing himself right now, but you guys mentioned what must Johnny Sauter be thinking in that car right now? And I can tell you, I talked to Tim Sauter, his brother, earlier this morning. Johnny has a lot of bravado about him, a lot of confidence, cocky, you might say. I asked, actually, Tim Sauter where that came from, because he's very kind of low-slung. His father, Jim Sauter, is also a very calm sort of guy. He said, we don't know where Johnny Sauter came from.
He just showed up on the doorstep one day with a bravado.
One of 11 kids in the Sauter family.
Take a look at him, you know where he came from. There's no denying that lineage. Johnny Sauter in the Build-A-Mo Chevrolet rides second. Mike Garvey is third, but they're chasing young Scott Frazier as teams get ready for possible pit stops here in the next few laps. We'll be back in Milwaukee. heartland of America. We're in the hometown of Harley-Davidson, and about 3,000 Harley fans and employees and riders are here this weekend to take in the ASA ACDelco Series at the Milwaukee Mile. The Time Warner Cable 200, 49 miles complete. We're almost a quarter of the way home. And Scott Frazier, the white 00, your leader. One driver we thought would have a great day today, Scott Wimmer from nearby Wausau, Wisconsin in the 05 car. Bob Dillner, he's got problems. He's dropped back to 18th spot. What's the story?
Big problems for Scott Wimmer. Ron Wimmer, his dad. What's going on with that 05 car?
Well, Scott ran out of brakes. He doesn't have any brakes at all. I just told him to ride around. Hopefully we can get a caution and we can find what the problem is. We don't know for sure. Maybe the fluid's down. Maybe a line ruptured. We don't know. So hopefully we can get that caution we need.
They're hoping to get the lucky break, and they will check the fluid and try to get the brakes back situated on that car.
Scott Wimmer started in 8th spot. He has backpedaled to 18th, trying to hang on for a caution flag period. One driver we haven't mentioned at all at this point because he dropped out very early today in the Dunlop Golf 75 car. David Bonnet standing by as we watch the leader down in turn 1. Jim Trados with David Bonnet.
David looked pretty dejected. Now the crew is going work feverishly underneath the Dunlop Chevy.
Yes, and running along there, and the motor just cut off, and don't really know what happened. Now they're looking at it and think it may be the starter, so we don't know. This motor here we've ran all season. It's been a good motor, but if something happened to it, we couldn't fuss. But I'd like to thank Dunlop and all the people that's been helping me, and say hello to my kids and Jessica and Justin watching TV.
The thoughts of David Bonnet as his crew works to try to get the 75 car back in. B&G Golf also on board that machine this weekend. Scott Frazier meantime in the 00 from Shubenacadie, Nova Scotia. The King Freightline Chevrolet. He has just been whipping everybody here in the first 50 miles. This for second spot. Mike Garvey and the Tecumseh Chevrolet to the inside of Johnny Sauter. They're drawn up on Ricky Bryant's machine. You're on board Bryant's, Van Camp's, Beans Pontiac here. And it will be the one car of Garvey. Down the front stretch, Garvey takes over. Sauter right with him, though, as we watch him ride into turn 1. The 55 machine picks Sauter off. Johnny Sauter will have to settle in behind Garvey and ride third. The 55 car providing a rolling block. Greg Williams from Hubstead, Indiana. Now Ricky Bryant has to move down out of the way. Garvey will swing to the high side, moving into second. This is his kind of racetrack, Steve.
Great racetrack for Mike Garvey, and what a great view that is out the back. And Scott Frazier's putting a whipping on him because he just lapped Ricky Bryant there in that red 35. Boy, good race cars going down a lap already.
Garvey now with some open racetrack. We'll see if he can do anything. He might have been held up a little by Johnny Sauter. See if Garvey can get out into some clean air and maybe track down Frazier. Frazier's about a half a straightaway out in front right now. 1.9 seconds as a matter of fact. But Bob Dillner, Mike Garvey, this is a place he considers pretty much home. They've done well here in the past. He loves the big flat racetracks.
Well, crew chief Bon Suss told me he wants that car in the front. Mike Garvey is trying to get it there right now. The car is just a tad loose. They will bring it in under the next caution, change some tires, and make a slight chassis adjustment to try to make that car turn better and not get so loose, not try to spin out in the corners.
Garvey doing a nice job keeping the car down low on the racetrack for a car that's loose. We'll take a look further back as we see Mike Cope in the 3 car. Mike is 5th right now. The 27 of Mark Plows, a lap machine. In front of Mike Cope is the 23 of Rick Beebe. Beebe rides in 4th spot. The Kansas Rocket Man looking for a great run here today. They have struggled mightily this year. First season for Beebe and Jerry Gunderman to be teamed up, and they've just had problems everywhere. There have been weeks when they've qualified well and they've broken early. There have been weeks when they've qualified poorly. Thought they had a good race car and they've been wrecked. Today, though, Rick Beebe doing a wonderful job. Started 6th, and Beebe sits 4th here with a 50 lap. We're past the 50-mile mark now, closing in on 60 complete. But Mike Cope starting to reel in Beebe as they will battle for position.
I thought Rick Beebe was going to contend for the championship, at least be a factor in the race.
Yep.
Rick, I talked to him at spring training down in Lakeland, Florida at the end of February, early March, and he really felt confident. He's won a couple races in the series, and he thought like they had the resources, as Mike Cope draws up on back of him, really thought they had the resources to be a factor.
The 55 of Greg Williams now in the way, sort of again. Williams staying high, letting the leaders go by, but you saw a few moments ago, he picked off Johnny Sauter. Now Mike Cope trying to work his way around the 55 and by Beebe for position. So Williams using the high side, staying out of trouble. Cope trying to size up the 23 car as they battle down into turn 1.
Rick Beebe's had a lot of good finishes, excuse me, Rick, but he's also had some bad ones. At Chicago, he was 40th, 28th at Salem, 28th at Hawkeye Downs in Cedar Rapids, and 31st at Madison last week.
They've had all manner of parts failures in Chicago. They had 3 driveline failures in a short period of time and never really ran a lap under speed at Chicago. Speaking of speed, Mike Cope had plenty there when he got by the 23 car, put Mike Cope up in 4th spot. Your leader continues to be the 00, Scott Frazier from Shubenacadie, Nova Scotia, Canada. The King Freight Line Chevrolet. We've got 59 laps on the board at Milwaukee. Back live at the Milwaukee Mile. Rick Benjamin and Steve Burns topside for you today here on TNN Sports. Bob Dillner and Jim Trado are on pit road watching Scott Frazier in that white 00 from the outside pole today, making his 4th career ASA start. Steve, an unbelievable performance for Frazier. Got by leader Johnny Sauter early in the go, and he's had it all his way since. But Mike Garvey in the black Tecumseh Chevrolet, the #1, drawing close. And how about Butch Miller after that penalty? Coming onto pit road under the black flag. He's caught up to Frazier now, trying to get his lap back and get back on the lead lap.
Yeah, Butch Miller, a guy who has 3 wins in a row here in 21 starts. But I tell you what, Scott Frazier is just riding one heck of a horse right now. And, you know, Rick, everywhere he's been, 3 races prior to this, he's been good. Nobody's ever heard of the guy.
As you documented, though, strong runner at the World Series of Stock Car Racing in New Smyrna, Florida in the wintertime. And he's been a CASCAR champion in Canada. Certainly a driver with good credentials, but stateside just starting to make a reputation for himself. Butch Miller in the Meyer Pontiac, the 52 car, trying to catch Frazier and get a lap back. He'll move out of Mike Garvey's way and let Garvey sail by. So Butch at the moment realizes he doesn't quite have enough to get up there, get around the 00 car, and get back on the lead lap. Butch running 30th at the moment, was taking a stop-and-go penalty several laps ago because the officials of ASA were afraid that there was a leak on that car somewhere. We told you how Butch and his crew had to work to change the back axle on that car right before the start of the race today. They took the car off the line, brought it back behind the wall in the garage area here, and pulled the rear end out of it, put a new one in. The car's performed well so far, but Butch had to stop for that black flag penalty, and so far has not been able to get up and get his lap back.
And Scott Frazier is about to put Mike Miller and some other good cars a lap down. In fact, right in front of him, if we take a look at Kevin Sawinski, Kevin Sawinski's on the move. Look at that, Rick. He's gone from 21st to 6th, running 2nd in the points right now to Gary St.Amant. Great run here for another one of those Wisconsin drivers.
Right, Sawinski, the 1997 champion of ASA. Here in Milwaukee, won in 1996. Has 2 top 10s in just 5 tries at the LeFevre #21. Mike Garvey's teammate. Brand new sponsorship on that team again this week. Looks like it may be a permanent arrangement with a new restaurant chain, Texas Roadhouses. There are 80 of them around the country, and had the privilege of meeting the president of the company before the race today. Understand our coverage is being aired in all the Texas Roadhouses around the country this race day, and we welcome all of you as you watch Kevin Sawinski roll toward the front in the black #21. Jump on board with his teammate Mike Garvey here down into the corner. Garvey riding 2nd, and he's closed in on Frazier now in lap traffic. He's about 3 car lengths behind Frazier. First pressure that Frazier's felt in quite a while.
Yeah, Mike Garvey just a master at racing in traffic. He has the ability to really push the button and go hard when he needs to. Yep, and Brandon Sperling right there in that red 40, the only car between Frazier and Garvey, and now he gets by Sperling.
Leaders come up onto the front stretch. The white 00 of Frazier is your leader. He's reeling in J.C. Beatty in the the 09 car. Beatty will go a lap down. Frazier on the outside with Garvey right behind him. Brandon Sperling in the 40. Steve talked about Sperling. He's 26th and now 1 lap down too. So as you mentioned, these top 3 or 4 cars starting to get around much quicker than many of the other cars in the field that we expect good things from. Starting to lap cars pretty deep in the field here at the Milwaukee Mile. They're coming up on Tristan Dupuy's machine. Dupuy is 23rd right now. He's about to go a lap down to the leaders as well. They are just setting a very quick pace coming up on lap 70 next time by.
It's amazing. We see right at the front of Garvey's car there how he runs right on that yellow line, right on the bottom, but they are setting an incredible pace. But hey, it's going to get interesting here in a second because here comes Garvey up on the 00.
And Tristan Dupuis slowing the 00 down.
Watching how these two cars have gone through lap traffic, and look at that, Tim Sauter is not too far away either, the 99 Series champion. When Frazier clears the lap traffic, he's able to pull back away from Garvey. Mike, though, now with a shot going down into turn 1. And look at the head of this pack. Bob Dillner, Tim Sauter in the 9 car is going to move out of the way and go a lap down to the leaders. Unbelievable.
Tim Sauter's car right now is wicked loose, meaning it wants to spin out in the turns. And that is the problem a lot of the teams are having. And Rick, if you think about it, it's very hot, very sunny out here. That creates a greasy racetrack, a very slippery one. And that is a lot different than weather conditions from when we qualified in practice yesterday.
Sauter takes it down low. Tristan Dupuis up in the middle of the racetrack. Frazier, the rookie in the white 00, searching for room to get by the 11 car. Frazier to the high side in that white Chevrolet. Dupuis able to stay in front of him for now and hold him at bay. But down into 3 on the outside. Garvey will go by Sauter, and the 00 of Frazier will go by Dupuis to put him a lap down. So Frazier running strong up in the middle of the racetrack here at Milwaukee. Down the front straightaway. Now he's got some cushion between he and Garvey as they fight for the lead here in the first half of the race. Trouble for another car that we were looking for a good run from today. The 20 of Pat Kelly from Joliet, Illinois, in trouble down the backstretch. Now, Kelly was super strong in his first ASA start at Chicago Motor Speedway. Strong runner at Iliana, which is one of the short tracks near Chicago. Kelly plans on going full-time at ASA next year. Led some laps at Chicago, but his afternoon short here today as he pulls off the track on the back straightaway. 72 miles and 200 are on the board at the Milwaukee Mile. This one in the hands of Scott Frazier from Nova Scotia, Canada. Back live at the Milwaukee Mile on TNN Sports. Time Warner Cable 200. Second caution of the day just a moment ago. Mike Miller spun the Jana King Pontiac coming out of turn 4. Your leader, Scott Frazier, will take the opportunity to lead the lead lap cars down pit road. Mike Garvey will stop as well. Downstairs to Bob Dillner.
It'll be interesting to see whether or not these guys change 4 tires. They are allowed to change 4 tires on a big track such as right here in Milwaukee. Scott Frazier's crew going to work on the right sides right now. That car is perfect. They say no changes whatsoever. It will be a 4-tire stop for Scott Frazier. A slight adjustment on Mike Garvey's car. They are also going for a 4-tire stop. Jim?
Gary St.Amant just pulled in. They put 4 fresh VF-Livered tires on the car. Crew Chief Bill McGowan reached in the left rear, put a spring rubber in the car. He said was tight. They're going to try to loosen it up a little bit. They had a great pit stop, and they got it right on time because they said they had to come in by lap 93 or they would have been out of fuel.
Long pit stop, though, for Scott Frazier in the 00, your leader. He will give up a lot of track position to some of the other lead group cars as we jump on board with Mike Garvey. Let's check back in with Bob Dillner.
Big-time problems for Scott Frazier's crew. They had a hard time on the left rear tire during that 4-tire stop. That lost them a bunch of spots down here. Of course, they don't change a lot of tires up there in Canada. Shows maybe a little experience on the crew's part.
And it's so cold up there, you don't wear tires out very often, right? Now,
It's hard to change tires with gloves on.
It is. Glenn Allen Jr. had trouble in the Bud Gibbon Goodwrench Pontiac, the 4 car. He came onto pit road and locked him up, and the car almost slid through the pit box. We'll show you what happened. This is the Frazier pit stop, where they had problems. They got the fuel in the car, trying to change those left side tires on the 00. Finally get the left rear off and put it back on. Front tire change taking a long time as well.
And, you know, Bob's right. They don't change tires that often. You can see they're frustrated. Boy, can't lose track position on pit road.
The good news for Frazier was that it was not a green flag stop.
Right.
But certainly that will set him back. Johnny Sauter and Butch Miller. Now, Butch Miller elected to stay up on the racetrack. He did not come to pit road. Which here's the spin that caused the caution. Mike Miller going around, coming out of turn 4. Great job of driving. Keeps the Jana King Pontiac off the wall. Showed to you again from our front straightaway speed camera as we look back toward turn 4.
Rick, how in the world did that happen? A veteran like Mike Miller just loses it coming off 4, and Scott Wimmer's trying to get into the pits to get those brakes worked on.
We heard from Ron Wimmer, his dad and crew chief, a while ago. They said Scott ran out of brakes early in the Weir's Chevrolet, the 05. They're going to try to get him in as quickly as they could. They're going to have to catch the car, no doubt, and try to see what they can do to restore brakes to that. Now they're going to have to push him back to the pit stall. You know, this is going to take a lot of time to try to get things straightened out for the 05.
Boy, what a bad break.
They get the hood up on the car. They'll be able to check the brake system, the master cylinder, and so forth, and see where the fluid has gone to and see if there are any repairs they can make. So we stay under caution at the Milwaukee Mile. Back with plenty more after this. And the ASA's Tour 2000 continues on TNN Sports next weekend. We'll be live at the Minnesota State Fair next Monday, 3 o'clock Eastern and Pacific, for the Miller Lite 300, one of the great short track wars in the country. Pressure building. The points chase is hot and heavy. Don't miss our coverage next Monday here on TNN Sports, along with, of course, coverage of the final rounds of the NHRA's U.S. Nationals from Indianapolis. Back green on lap 83 here at the Milwaukee Mile of 200. Your leader, Johnny Sauter, in the 93, back to the point. He started up on the pole today, led early on, gave up the lead to Scott Frazier. Steve, the situation for Johnny Sauter, they decided to take 2 tires, go for track position here early on as we're on board with Gary St.Amant. The USAMeets.com cameras today. St.Amant back in 8th position on the restart. Scott Frazier had that long pit stop. What happened to him?
Yeah, they had trouble in the left rear. As we saw, he came in first, went out 9th. And how about Rick Beebe? He came in 5th, went back out 18th. He was having a great run. Let's see if he's fast enough to get back to the front.
Well, Johnny Sauter and Scott Hansen running 1 and 2 right now. So Sauter in the 93, who was strong in the first 25 laps before giving up the lead to the 00. And here comes Hansen. 2 wins on the season so far for the driver of Don Finetti's Ford, the structural transport Taurus with AFCO Racing Products on the hood today. Hansen's got a couple of wins under his belt here at the Milwaukee Mile. Bob Diller, Johnny Sauter with just 2 tires, gambling on some track position. He's given ground quickly, though, to Hansen. What's the situation?
Well, the reason why they went with a 2-tire stop is because these BFG radials are wearing very well here. This is a tread indicator, and you can see it goes down into the tire. These tires are not wearing at all. They think this could be some interesting strategy to help them a little later on in the race.
He'll need the help because Scott Hansen just went whistling by the 93 car, no problem at all. So Hansen becomes our 3rd leader of the day here at the Milwaukee Mile. Hansen with 2 wins over his lengthy and storied career, from 15th spot to the lead inside of 100 miles. A great run for the veteran from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Jim Trado, I'm sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say, Rick, he won back here in 1989 and 90. So, yeah, he is a veteran. He's done very well at this track, including 9 top 5s.
That is a great, great record. Almost half of your starts to be in the top 5, making his 21st visit here to the mile. Jim Trado, what about his team? They've got to be happy with the run he's putting together here this afternoon.
Scott Hansen's crew chief Craig Smokestead said we changed 2 right side tires, no adjustments, but keep in mind, they're one of the few teams that came in the first caution and changed 4 tires. Their strategy, they have to come in at least one more time. They're going to change just 2 right side tires as the pits are pretty much empty down here. These guys are pretty happy getting ready for their final stop and watching Scott Hansen take it to the front.
Still a ways to go until halfway, but Hansen has pulled away now from Johnny Sauter. You know, for Hansen, this has been a roller coaster season. He's got the 2 wins under his belt, but he had a slow start to the campaign. We had told you that earlier the Wisconsin native was reevaluating his driving career, but he's been so strong of late. We asked Scott Hansen, has he had a change of heart about his driving future?
Without a doubt, but it's not any fun when you're not competitive, and I just had to pass that statement along to everybody and let them know that I was serious. And as it showed, you know, we won the last 2 out of 4, so it's turned around quite a bit.
Turnaround has been the story for Scott Hansen in the last month and a half of the season. 1 at Jennerstown, 1 at Salem. And he is looking very, very tough here this afternoon in Don Finetti's Ford. He's got 9 top 10s in 15 starts, sitting 6th in points right now. And he's a long way away from Gary St.Amant, Steve, with 6 races to go. But if he puts together a good win string here in the latter part of the year, he can make it interesting before we're done.
Came in here 6th in points. As you said, he's a long ways from Gary St.Amant, but maybe he just lit a fire underneath his race team, Rick, when I think he was serious when he said he was thinking about, you know, hanging it up, but maybe he just lit that fire to turn that thing around.
And I know he didn't want to end his career, if this is indeed his swan song. He didn't want to end it the way things have been going. Great to see Scott Hansen at the point. Meantime, great battle for 3rd. Mike Garvey in the 1 car has just gotten by Greg Stewart from 4 Oaks, North Carolina in the family-owned Pontiac, the 33 car. Stewart was 3rd. Garvey has just shuffled it back to 4th. And here comes Scott Frazier in the 00 along with Tim Taylor. Frazier now up to 5th. Taylor back to 6th in the 28. Joey Clanton is 7th. Gary St.Amant is 8th. You've got to give a nod, I think, to Tim Taylor and to Greg Stewart. Strong in the top 10. Their best outings in a long time.
And looky there, Rick. Greg Stewart battling, holding off Scott Fraser at 00. Greg Stewart has never won. He had a great run at I-70 earlier this year. This is his 3rd full season there. Fraser goes by him, but his 3rd full season of ASA competition.
Fraser up to 4th now in the 00. Directly in front of him, Garvey in the 1 is 3rd. He'll be very hard to get by, I believe, for Fraser. I don't know that Fraser will have as much luck getting by Garvey. Although Mike, the veteran that he is, if Fraser is discernibly faster, I'm sure he'll let him go and not make it too difficult for him at this stage. Not quite to halfway, but we'll watch with interest. There's Garvey in the black 1, Fraser in the white 00. Joey Clanton a little further back, battling for position. The 21 of Sawinski and the 3 of Mike Cope. That's a dogfight for 9th. Cope has the spot, but Sawinski and the Texas Roadhouse 21 trying to get inside him. Jack Landis on pit road in the Noah Yoder Taurus. Some problems under the back end of that machine. ASA officials there helping take a look. That's Joe Balish, the tech director. The large fellow with the black mustache there on the inside, walking away from the car. Another ASA official looking on from behind the yellow line there. Take a look back up front at Scott Hansen in the 5. Don Finetti's Ford, the structural transport Taurus. He is your leader by 7/10 of a second over Johnny Sauter, closing in on halfway. Back live at the Milwaukee Mile, West Allis, Wisconsin, the Time Warner Cable 200. Caution waving for the 3rd time this afternoon. Trouble for Tim Taylor, just short of halfway in the EMAS ambulance system Chevrolet. Taylor spun up between turns 1 and 2 and backed into the wall very heavily. Steve Burns, a tough break for Tim Taylor. He was running 6th at the time of the spin.
Boy, we had just got done bragging about what a great job Tim Taylor had done. Came in here qualified in the top 10. Let's take a look at what happened, Rick.
Outside of Mike Cope, looks like a little contact with the 3 car, and Taylor goes around. They were battling for position up in the 6th, 7th, and 8th spot. Amazingly, Cope is able to drive around the 28. That might be the best piece of driving I've seen in a long time. For Mike Cope to swing outside the 28 and clear him and not hit anything.
You know, here's the thing, Rick. This is a flat racetrack, essentially almost a completely flat racetrack. If 2 cars get together in the corners, it doesn't take much help to spin them around.
Take a look from the onboard camera at Gary St.Amant's Chevrolet down into turn 1. You can see him up ahead. There's the blue car of Cope. You can see the bump that he gave the 28. Taylor went completely around and backed in, and now he's throwing tire smoke off the right rear. So Tim Taylor needs to come to pit road under this caution. He's going to cut down one of those BF Goodrich traction TAs with the body damage.
As the race goes by, we understand that Butch Miller has something else other than a steering wheel in his hands.
As we watch Joey Clanton on the racetrack, Butch Miller deciding that maybe he's had enough this afternoon. He's going to take a break and
with a mouthful,
gobble up a sandwich. Nothing like having. I'm sure he's eating the sponsor's product, Jim.
Well, Butch, I imagine that the day couldn't have got longer. It started out bad. Now it looks like it got worse on the right front. What happened?
Well, first thing happened is when I got up this morning, I stepped off the wrong side of the bed. And it hasn't gone good since. The only thing that's good right now is I got a sandwich straight from Meyer, and I'm happy.
Right front bearings, guys, is the official reason why they're behind the wall.
Tough break for the Meyer Pontiac and our good friend Butch Miller, 3-time series champion. Done for the afternoon. 109 laps on the board. The green is waving here at the Milwaukee Mile, and the 93 of Johnny Sauter, the 1 of Mike Garvey. They're chasing the 5 car of Scott Hansen. Steve, look at how Hansen just took off when the green flag came out.
Boy, Scott Hansen is dialed in right now, Rick. And as we said, he's got 2 wins on this racetrack, 9 top 5s, and he's led 6 different races here for a total of 266 laps. So that's bad news for the rest of the field.
Structural transport Taurus of Hansen opening up about a 10-car length advantage over Johnny Sauter in the 93. He runs second. The 1 of Mike Garvey sits third. The 00 of Scott Fraser, who led so many laps in the first half here today. He rides fourth, and then Clanton, amazingly, with top gear only in the 83 car, got a good start anyway, and he is fifth. The pressure, though, on Johnny Sauter. The car pushes up the track. Garvey trying to go inside, and the 1 car can't do it. And Fraser's just back there kind of riding at the moment, waiting to see which lane to use when he hits the corner.
Showing a lot of patience for a guy who only has 4 starts in this ultra-competitive series. And look at Mike Garvey underneath Sauter, Rick.
You can see Garvey take that low lane because Sauter wiggled in the middle of a corner last time. Had a perfect look from the Tecumseh Chevrolet. Sauter's car very loose that time through. And look at Frazier sticking the nose of the 00 in there for 3rd spot.
You're clear.
Boy, he looked like a veteran, didn't he? He didn't pause a bit. He went right with Garvey.
So put Garvey in the 1 car up in 2nd. Frazier in the 00 now is 3rd. They are trying to track down leader Scott Hansen with 111 miles complete. 89 to go here at the Milwaukee Mile on a beautiful Sunday afternoon for racing late in the month of August. I'll look back just a little bit further. How about Russ Tuttle from Indianapolis in the Conseco Pontiac around Gary St.Amant? This is for 7th spot. Russ Tuttle for 7th now in his best drive of the season.
I talked to Russ Tuttle before the race. You know, we've joked about Russ. He's the deputy chief of detectives in Marion County, Indiana, which is essentially Indianapolis. He does personal security. He said, hey, you guys should have gone with us this week. I had to chase a bad guy, wreck the car. I tackled the guy. I had to draw my gun. He said, I'm getting too old for that stuff.
Talked to me yesterday, told me the story, and said, I needed to get out from behind the desk and do that just to show myself I could still do it.
Well, he's doing a great job right now on the racetrack with Gary St.Amant.
Yes, he is. I like Russ for a lot of reasons, one of which is, like me, he's on the north side of 40 now, and he still can get it done.
Oh, yeah. Tough man.
Gary St.Amant on board with the USAMeets.com camera watching Tuttle. Meantime, how about Mike Garvey closing in on Scott Hansen down the back straightaway? Just 0.2 of a second, the gap now between Hansen and Garvey. This ought to be a great battle because you've got Hansen with 2 wins, Garvey with 3. Garvey on his favorite kind of racetrack, and Hansen's 1 here. So this ought to be a good one.
And Frazier with nothing to lose right behind him. He's a dangerous man right now.
They lapped by the 28 of Tim Taylor. He belted the wall several laps ago. Taylor was in the top 6 when that incident happened. He's just out there trying to make laps now. There's Frazier in the 00 sitting 3rd with 87 laps to go. Back live at the Milwaukee Mile, West Allis, Wisconsin. The Time Warner Cable 200 today for the ASA ACDelco Series, and caution has just waved on the speedway. Mark Plows, the Australian, the net-to-phone Pontiac of Robert Hamke. Plows just spinning that machine to bring out the caution all by himself. Didn't hit anything, evidently. So the yellow flag waves on lap 119 of 200. While we were away, a change for the lead. Mike Garvey had been closing in on Scott Hansen. Hansen low off turn 4. Garvey riding the high groove to perfection. Plenty of momentum, and the 1 car just blows by the 5 going down into turn 1, and Garvey taking the lead. The caution coming right out immediately following that. With 74 laps left at the Milwaukee Mile, I'm Rick Benjamin with Steve Burns. Bob Dillner and Jim Trado battled for the lead. Joey Clanton was the restart leader in the 83 car. Didn't pit, or didn't take tires anyway. The 1 car Mike Garvey did. Garvey will blow by the 83 and retake the point. So give Mike Garvey the top spot in the Tecumseh Chevrolet. Clanton now is 2nd. Scott Hansen is 3rd. The 11 there, Tristan Dupuis, is a lapped car. Johnny Sauter, Gary St.Amant, and Ricky Johnson, the rest of the top 6. Scott Frazier, who led so much of this race earlier, sits 7th as we get ready, perhaps, for the run to the flag. Downstairs, let's get the update on what's happened on pit road. Jim Trado, what's Joey Clanton's plan at this point?
Gene Roberts said, we're having a ball. We don't want to come down pit lane because we only have high gear. We're going to stay out and run to the finish. They say they're okay on fuel. To Bob Dillner.
I just spoke to crew chief Bob Suss for Mike Garvey. They say that car is super right now. They made some adjustments the first stop. Car is very, very good. Pit stops are through for them. As for Johnny Sauter in the 93 car, the crew told me the main thing right now is just to keep Johnny very calm inside that race car because he gets a little fidgety. And how about this? On that last round of pit stops, they changed right side tires again. Those left sides will go all 200 miles here in Milwaukee.
Johnny Sauter tangles there with Tristan Dupuis coming off the corner. Lots of traffic on this restart. You got a real jumble of lapped cars and lead lap cars. The 11 is a lapped car. There's Johnny Sauter. We're on board with Gary St.Amant. Sauter's car's a little loose at this point. He wiggles up the racetrack, goes around Tim Taylor's lap machine. Johnny Sauter is fourth as they funnel down the front stretch. We'll try to set him up for you. The 93, there goes Sauter. Gary St.Amant in the yellow 7 car working with Ricky Johnson. They're battling for 5th. St.Amant is 5th. Johnson is 6th. Scott Frazier in the white 00 there is 7th. Mike Cope back there in the blue and white 3 car. He would be 8th. And Ricky Johnson turning in a good run today, Steve Bones.
Yeah, Ricky Johnson came in here 9th in points. Rick, the last 4 weeks, he's finished 11th, 10th, 12th, and 12th. So not spectacular, but they've been very consistent. Ricky Johnson trying to win his very first ASA race.
Johnson had a great run a year ago at Minneapolis at the Minnesota State Fair, where we'll be next Monday on Labor Day here on TNN Sports. Almost finished 2nd there. Ended up misreading the flags. Thought it was the checker when it was actually the white flag. Got out of the gas and lost several positions, but strong runner. Will make that mistake again, and maybe Minnesota will be the place Ricky Johnson gets it done. Right now, though, he's given up ground. You can see that Scott Frazier in the 00 has gone by, so Frazier jumps to 6th. He's got Tristan Dupuy in the 11 car trying to stay with the leaders and get a lap back. Can't do it. Frazier rolls around him on the outside down into 1. So Frazier now with some clean racetrack to try to get to work and get back into contention here in the final 60 miles today at Milwaukee.
Rick, I can't believe I have forgotten to tell you this. Scott Frazier in the 00.
Yeah.
From Shubenacadie.
Right.
That is an Indian word that means where the wild potatoes grow. You are dying to know that. I know. Shubenacadie, where the wild potatoes grow.
Hey, those are some spuds in Shubenacadie, I hear.
Those are spuds.
Frazier to the outside and Tim Sauter. This is not a battle for position in the night. I would have thought Shubenacadie meant something like the land of beautiful sunsets or something, something poetic like that.
Oh.
Oh boy. We'll take our taters and head home here shortly.
We're commentators.
There you go. The 00 Frazier down the front straightaway with Gary St.Amant in his gun sights in 5th spot. Frazier starting to gain some ground again. That car has gotten quick after the last round of stops, but it's still Mike Garvey's race with 70 miles to go. Joey Clanton hanging on in 2nd. There's Clanton in the 83. He's got Scott Hansen right behind him, though, in the 5 car. Remember, Hansen the leader right before the caution in the round of pit stops that set us up to run to the checkered flag, presumably today. St.Amant now. Johnny Sauter going at it for 4th spot. There's Clanton trying to hang on to 2nd ahead of the 5 of Hansen. Your leader, Garvey, in the 1. Down into turn 1. Working up on the 48 of Joe Knott. About to put Knott a lap down. Now, Knott is 17th. He's had a decent day, so that shows you how fast these leaders are at the Milwaukee Mile.
Boy, Joey Clanton is really impressive. You know, we'd heard that they had lost all their gears except for 4th. He's doing a great job of holding off the veteran Scott Hansen.
But you know that Hansen's Donfinity Ford is very strong. Hansen led earlier for some 35 laps and was very strong in doing so. Gave up the lead right before the caution, took tires and fuel. He's ready to run to the checkers, and he is strong once again. On board with your leader in the Tecumseh Chevrolet, it's Garvey. Still hasn't been able to get by Joe Knott in Eddie Sharp's Chevrolet. As we take a look at crew chief Bon Suss watching things from the pit box. We're a week away from a huge motorsports day here on TNN. Next Monday, Labor Day, our coverage of the NHRA Winston Drag Racing Series from Indy, the Big Go, the U.S. Nationals, the finals, the biggest event in drag racing. 4 hours of coverage from IRP starting at noon, and then the finals at 5 o'clock Eastern and Pacific. They'll bracket our coverage of the ASA in Minneapolis next week, Labor Day Monday, here on TNN Sports. Trouble for the longtime race leader and the pole sitter. Johnny Sauter in the Build-A-Mold Trim Plus Chevrolet backed into the wall up between turns 1 and 2. Word is he might have had some contact with another race car. Bob Dillner down on pit road to watch what they're going to try to do to the 93.
He is very aggravated right now, and so is the crew. I ran down here, and they said, Scott Frazier dumped us. They're working on the back end of the number 93 car right now. Looks like a lot of sheet metal damage. They will try to get Johnny Sauter back out in this race, but what a shame for Johnny Sauter.
You know, they had to have bent the frame in the left rear corner there. That car is shortened up all the way to the wheel well. So the crew underneath trying to pull some bodywork off. We'll show you what happened. The 00 on the outside of the 7 of St.Amant. That's the 93 right in front of him going to the corner.
Let's see if they make contact. Oh, I believe they did.
Looked like Johnny Sauter was loose, though, I have to say.
Looked like he wiggled a little bit. And we said earlier in the day, it it doesn't take much in that area of the racetrack to get somebody loose.
Gary St.Amant close to the action in the 7. Behind him, there you see the 00, and there you just get a glimpse of the 93 with the brakes locked up, sliding up the track and backing into the wall between turns 1 and 2. Meantime, Charlie Menard had spun in his Menard Chevrolet, the 65 car, up at the other end of the racetrack, and the wrecker out to service that machine and get him hooked off the speedway as well. 142 miles are on the racetrack, are on the board here this afternoon. So we have 58 laps to go. Now, be sure to dial up TNN on Friday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific. The hits keep on coming. Tables and chairs go flying. The good guys and the bad guys get into it, of course, and it all comes your way on ECW Wrestling. Find out what happens next Friday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific, a part of TNN's Thrill Zone Friday.
You know, Balls Mahoney from Nutley, New Jersey has become a huge ASA. There's Balls Mahoney right there.
Is
from
that
Nutley,
him?
New Jersey. He's a big fan. He was at Madison last week. I know that's Balls and his contingent of fans. Look, that's got Nutley, New Jersey written all over it, drinking a diet beer.
They come in on the bus together?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
You know, Rob Van Dam's got nothing on Balls Mahoney.
I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah.
Ready for a restart here at the Milwaukee Mile. Mike Garvey in the 1 will be your restart leader. Joey Clinton hanging back their ways in the 83. He'll line up in second spot. Remember, Clinton with high gear only. That's the 48 of Joe Knott, a lap down behind the 1. Pace car is in. 54 miles to settle this one. Garvey is the restart leader. Gary St.Amant is third in the 7. Scott Frazier, the 00, right alongside in 4th spot. Ricky Johnson is right there as well in the 22, and Mike Cope, the 2 blue and white cars. A little further back in the pack, Kevin Sawinski, and how about Larry Foyt up to 9th spot from 23rd. Won the consolation race yesterday. His first win, I believe, in ASA competition. Glenn Allen Jr. in the 4 right there as well. Kevin Sawinski in the Texas Roadhouse Chevrolet, the 21 car. Backing up at this point. He was up strongly in the top 6 earlier, but seems to have lost a little something here in the late stages. But Foyt making up ground.
He's got 2 top 10s this year, Rick. And, you know, he had a race a week or 2 ago where he spun 4 or 5 times, but boy, he looks like a veteran out there doing a fine job. And how about we saw the footage of AJ in the Open?
Yeah.
Great career here at Milwaukee.
When Larry Foyt won yesterday, I wondered if that might be the only time a father and son have both won here at the Milwaukee Mile. No one could give me the answer to that, but it could well be one of the few times, certainly. The 16 of Russ Tuttle. Russ doing a wonderful job. He was up 6th earlier. Right now, Russ sits in 11th spot. His best finish of the year in 8th at Lanier. He and Greg Stewart fighting for position. And Bob Diller, Russ Tuttle has turned in a really good ride today from a 29th starting spot up to 11th.
He has, but crew chief Steve Strasburg just told me on the last round of pit stops, when Russ pulled out, they hit Scott Frazier's tire. That has pushed in the air dam, making that car push. It doesn't want to turn in the corner anymore, and that concerns that team.
Steve Strasburg from left-hander chassis here in Wisconsin. Left-hander for the moment, the flavor of the month. It's considered to be the hot setup. It's what Scott Wimmer used to win 2 races early in the season. Russ Tuttle's car now a left-hander design race car. And Strasburg, one of the key guys at left-hander for a long time, but joined Russ midway through the season. Their performances have picked up dramatically since Steve Strasburg came on board.
Rick, remember when Scott Wimmer won the 2nd and 3rd race of the year? He was the only car running a left-hander chassis. Now there's 4 or 5 maybe in, and we understand more have ordered left-hander chassis.
Talking about Scott Frazier, he led many of the first 100 miles here today, fell off the pace. Now he's coming back. We saw Frazier in the 00 up to 3rd. This the battle for 4th. Mike Cope in the 3 out of Florida to the inside, and Gary St.Amant for position. Give Cope 4th, St.Amant back to 5th. Ricky Johnson sits 6th, and how about Robbie Pyle? Haven't mentioned him much today in the 8 car. Pyle up to 7th spot right now. So the final 48 trips around the Milwaukee Mile ought to be exciting ones. You're on board St.Amant, the USAMeets.com camera. On board the Wins Goodwrench Chevrolet, and they string them out down the back straightaway. Robbie Pyle in the 8 car is 7th, and Larry Foyt, we talked about him a moment ago, right behind him, sitting 8th.
Robbie Pyle, another rookie. He's 11th in points. Rick, we mentioned him at the top of the show. He was embarrassed about the wreck that he caused on lap 1, sitting on the pole position. But boy, he's come back with a vengeance today, currently running in the 7th position.
carrying that Bissell sponsorship that was on Buddy Gainey's car. Buddy didn't make the show this weekend, so the Bissell decals go on the Young Motorsports Chevrolet. Jim Trado, does Robbie Pyle have the ability to get up and contend here in the last 40 laps?
Just spoke with car chief Bob Kumbaugh, and he said that the car's a little tight going in the corner, but Robbie Pyle was paid an ultimate compliment by Chaz Howell, the chassis specialist. He said, Robbie Pyle is an equal. I can do as much talking about chassis with Robbie than I can with any chassis specialist, drivers included. So Robbie Pyle will find a way to figure this car out. He did say they're about a tenth behind the leaders, and he's gaining.
Pyle doing a nice job today, and you can't say enough really either about the drive Ricky Johnson has turned in the Nationwide Auction Systems 22 out of the Herzog shop. Steve, talk about a team that had struggled up until a few weeks ago when Ricky turned in those top 12s. That string of threes got going right now. They need a good run here today. Mark Dismore, their other car, the 44, the Monster.com Chevrolet, they've had problems. They've been in the wall several times lately, and talked to some of their team members this morning. They needed a good afternoon here, and Ricky's given it to them so far.
Yeah, Ricky Johnson's team is located near Milwaukee, so they felt good about their chances coming in here, even though Ricky there, the number 22, had only run on this racetrack one time. So again, Ricky Johnson, as you see, coming in there ninth in points, has been consistent, but they want to make a run to the front.
Ricky rides sixth behind Gary St.Amant, the point leader in fifth, and your leader for the last many laps has been Mike Garvey in the Tecumseh Chevrolet, going for his fourth win of the year. It would be his second on a 1-mile racetrack, but he's got Joey Clanton right with him. Hey, if you think things are rough and tumble here, check out TNN on Sunday nights at 9 Eastern and Pacific. A ton of fury unleashed, and the rider can only use one hand. PBR Championship bull riding tonight from Houston, tonight at 9 Eastern and Pacific, only on TNN.
I wouldn't be using any hands because I wouldn't be doing it.
You'd be face planted in the mud. That'd be me, too. I know. I understand completely. Mike Garvey might be riding with no hands, Ma, at the moment, because he is just whistling. He is out in front by a full second over Joey Clanton at Steve Dale's Pontiac, the EchoSource.com machine, the 83 car. The Tecumseh Chevrolet has been dominant here since the midway point. We put 160 miles on the board, 40 to go, and Steve Garvey is starting to look like he did at Hawkeye Downs a couple of times and at Chicago back in June, as though he is the fastest guy when it counts toward the end. How about his teammate, Kevin Sawinski? Sawinski in the Texas Roadhouse Chevrolet out of Scott Lefever's shops, the 21 car. He's riding back there in ninth spot. Looked like he had enough to contend earlier. He was fast, but they faded. Come from 21st he has to ninth, but he's been kind of stuck there. He dropped anchor several laps ago.
Yeah, I think they're better on the long runs, Rick, but, you know, he came in here second in the points, and he needs to hang on to his position. Don't know if he's going to have enough laps or have a fast enough car, for that matter, to get up to the front. But you know what's amazing? We have 5 cars in the top 10, 5 drivers who have never raced here before. Joey Clanton, the 00 Fraser, Mike Cope in the 3, the 8 of Robbie Powell in the 14. There you see Larry Foyt. These guys have never been to this racetrack, and they're in the top 10.
All year long, we've been telling you how strong this rookie class is in ASA, and this is certainly an indicator of just how good these first-year drivers are. Come into this series, they're with well-funded teams. They've got veteran crew chiefs in many cases who really know how to work on these race cars, know how to attack these tracks. And a good battle here. Larry Foyt in the 14 is 8th. Sawinski in the 21 is 9th. Joe Knott in the 48 car, not on the lead lap, but Knott has had a good ride going today. Try to take a look here and tell you where Joe Knott is running. He's 14th at the moment. The lead lap cars, only 13 of them. Knott is the first car, 1 lap down. Let's head downstairs to Bob Dillner.
Well, you guys keep on mentioning Larry Foyt. They are very happy here today, and they were last week in Madison, too. Joe Shear Jr., the crew chief for Larry Foyt, told me they're finally getting their act in gear. They went testing with team manager Butch Miller a couple of weeks ago. Larry took a little vacation in Texas this week. He saw his mom. His mom told him, keep your head up, Larry. Joe Shear tells me he feels that both Larry and this team have a lot more confidence right now.
Talk about a guy who's got a lot of confidence. How about Mike Cope from Weeki Wachee Springs, Florida, in car number 3. Cope has started to rumble here late in the going. He's gotten by Joey Clanton for second. Clanton now third, and Scott Frazier closing into the 00. So, Steve, I think Clanton, without anything other than fourth gear, the pressure may be getting to him a little bit here.
Yeah, I think so. And let me close one thought on Larry Foyt. Bob Dillner just mentioned his crew chief is Joe Shear Jr. Joe Shear Sr. won a race here in 1993. A great racer from this part of the country.
Great short tracker, won the National Short Track Championship at Rockford Speedway in Illinois, not too far from here. I believe the number was 9 times before his passing a couple of years ago. In fact, won it not many months before he died from cancer just a couple of years ago. Joe Shear Sr., well remembered by many short track fans in the Midwest and all across the country. On board with Gary St.Amant, starting to close in on this battle now. St.Amant, the national point leader and the 98 ASA champion. He is 5th, and he's closing in. Clanton, way loose now, has dropped back to 4th spot. St.Amant will go to the inside of the 83 car and try to take the spot away and move to 4th.
You know, talking about maturity, we heard Gene Roberts, Joey Clanton's crew chief, said they've sat Joey down and talked to him. Well, that guy right behind him, Gary St.Amant, working over him there from behind, he sat down with him as well and talked to him about, you've got a good car, you've got good equipment, you've got some talent. Now you just have to learn when to go and when not to.
Look at Clanton push up the racetrack there at turn 3. You know that's not where he wants to be right now. St.Amant trying to gain ground on the inside and move by. Can't quite do it. So Clanton hanging on to 4th spot. Scott Frazier in the 00. The white car has powered by and into 3rd. And he is turning in his 3rd, actually his 4th great run in ASA this season. Clanton sitting 10th in season points, trying to hold off the season championship leader. Garvey and Mike Cope are 1 and 2, but they're gone. They're a long way ahead of this battle right now.
Rick Clanton has 90 laps on his tires, and most of the other leaders only have 60, so he's doing a good job on older rubber.
Trying to hang on. The BF Goodrich Traction TA is holding up very well here in Milwaukee this weekend. Haven't heard any complaints about the tires. In fact, we've been hearing as tires have come off some of the cars earlier that they were hardly worn at all. So the team's deciding, hey, we can go a longer time between stopping for tires. And now we've had many laps since the last caution. Frazier just going by the 93 there of Johnny Sauter. Sauter, the pole sitter, led many laps. If you were with us a little while ago, about 15 minutes ago, Sauter got into the first turn wall, maybe with some help from Frazier. Not happy. It looked like Johnny Sauter might want to ride around and perhaps take a look at the 00, but they go by each other without incident that time, and that's certainly a good situation. Sauter just out there logging some laps in Alec Pincino's 93 car. You can see him wiggle that time through the corner, obviously with that hard hit into the turn 1 wall. You know the handling on that car is not at all what it needs to be for Johnny Sauter. Hanging on in 22nd spot right now. But Mike Garvey is your leader with 30 miles to go here at the Milwaukee Mile. There's Garvey over the start-finish line to make it 29 trips left. He's got quite a good margin over Mike Cope, but Cope's pretty quick here in the late going. Excellent turnout here at the Milwaukee Mile. Plenty to occupy the fans. Some Native Americans in their traditional garb putting on some of the pre-race activities and entertainment here today at the Milwaukee Mile, part of the pageantry that is American Speed Association stock car racing. The Time Warner Cable 200 today here on CNN Sports from the Milwaukee Mile. I'm Rick Benjamin with Steve Burns, Bob Dillner, and Jim Trado on pit road for us today. And Steve, what can you say about a guy like Mike Garvey? He has put that car into the wind and said, see ya, I'm headed home.
Well, he looks strong right now, trying to pick up his 4th victory of the 2000 season. I've said this before, Rick, as you know, we're televising all 20 races, but I'd hate to think where Mike Garvey would be in the points right now if he hadn't had those 4 DNFs, did not finish it. He'd be giving Gary St.Amant all he wanted in the points battle.
Absolutely. 25 trips to go for Garvey in the Tecumseh Chevrolet right there. 2.1 seconds. You got a glimpse of Mike Cope. It's a day for the Mikes. Mike Cope in the 3 car. The Florida Auto Auctions Chevrolet is in 2nd spot, but a couple of seconds back. Then Scott Frazier, Joey Clanton, and Gary St.Amant. Bob Dillner, you've been watching things from the north end of pit road today, and what's the situation? Does Mike Cope have anything for Mike Garvey?
Not sure, Rick, but this race may come down to tires. You guys mentioned how good the BFGs are here. They are very good. But on that last round of pit stops, Mike Garvey took 4 tires. Mike Cope only took 2. Mike says his car is very good on the short run. They're worried about that car fading as we get into the latter part of this race.
We will watch and see as he goes inside the 55 of Greg Williams, the Florida Auto Auctions machine. Cope is just his 3rd ASA start. He's been quick both times out previously. Last week at Madison, very strong, got wrecked. At Toledo, on fire, just bonsaiing through the field before he got dumped and turned into the infield at Toledo several weeks ago. Mike plans a full-scale assault on ASA action in the year 2001. Scott Frazier, though, in the 00 has closed in on the back of the 3 car. Frazier will battle for second here shortly. You have to give Cope a lot of credit, I think, Steve Burns, because he's come from 24th today to second spot. Finished second in the consolation yesterday.
You know what's impressive about Mike Cope? They didn't join the ASA ACDelco series until late in the season. They come here, and as you said, he had a great run going at Toledo. They've run well everywhere they've been, and that's what's so impressive to me.
But the guy who's run even better everywhere they've been so far is right on the back tailpipe of Cope now. Scott Frazier in that King Transportation 00. He's reeled Cope back in.
Yeah, just when we thought he was fading a little bit, now he's starting to come back up and, as you said, draw up on the number 3 of Mike Cope. Mike wiggled there just a bit. So we'll see if Scott Frazier, we've got 20 laps to go, see what he can do here in short order.
These two drivers nearly 3 seconds behind your leader, Mike Garvey, who's coming onto the front stretch now. There you see Cope and Frazier a little further back. We'll take one final timeout and come back to catch the checkered flag at Milwaukee. 15 miles to go at the Milwaukee Mile, the Time Warner Cable 200 for the ASA ACDelco series here on TNN Sports. And Mike Garvey has got everything going his way at the moment. Garvey's built the advantage to 3.2 seconds over the second place runner, still Mike Cope. One of the drivers that we had mentioned a lot earlier, had a very good run going, led a lot of laps around the midpoint. How about Scott Hansen, Steve, and Don Finetti, Structural Transport Ford, the 5 car, had to come out of pit road a couple of times unexpectedly. He's back in 12th. Quick, but not quick enough to get up and contend.
Boy, I sure thought he was going to pick up I'll spit it out here in a second. His third win at the
stay out of the good 20s at this stage of the afternoon.
Yeah, just an up and down day for Scott Hansen.
Yeah. Riding behind Glenn Allen Jr. in the 4 car. He is 11th. Glenn Allen is. Hansen is 12th right now as we come toward 10 laps to go. Hansen, with the 2 career wins here at the Milwaukee Mile, was quick in the first half of the race, came from 15th to lead, looked dominatingly strong, had to stop for tires and had to come in 2 more times in short order, and that pretty much killed his chances here this afternoon at the Milwaukee Mile. But Hansen, always a strong competitor, has those 2 wins in the last several weeks of action. He's starting to rise through the point standings in ASA. A reminder, this is the 15th event of the 20-race season. You'll see them all here this year on TNN Sports as we watch Mike Garvey put Mark Dismore another lap down on the 44. Garvey all alone out in front. He's got David Bonnet right behind him. Bonnet back on the racetrack. They fixed the motor problems under the hood of the Caton Chevrolet, the Dunlop Golf Systems car, with some help from B&G Golf and some other folks this weekend to get the 75 car here. But Garvey just pulling away from everybody at this point. Back a little further, though, we'll show you some good action in the pack. Mike Cope there. You see the blue and white car still second. Scott Frazier was all over him briefly, but Frazier has settled back into third. They're battling, though, back for 5th, 6th, and 7th. There's Gary St.Amant. Ricky Johnson in the 22 is 6th. Larry Foyt with a great run on the 14 car is up to 7th. And Kevin Sawinski's gotten going again, Steve, in the last 20 laps or so. Sawinski is up to 8th in the Texas Roadhouse Chevrolet for the Scott Lefevre team. That brand new sponsorship on that car. And again, we welcome Texas Roadhouses to ASA ACDelco Series competition.
And if Larry Foyt can hang in there, he's 7th right now. This will be his best finish of the year. He was 9th, our first race of the year in Lakeland, Florida. And Sawinski, as we said, seems to be better on long runs. He's run out of laps, but he is better the longer we run green.
But I'm really impressed with the drive he's turned in, as I am with the drive that Larry Foyt's turned in that Harrah's Pontiac today, the Harrah's Resorts and Casinos machine. Larry Foyt has just had a great weekend here. We asked the question a while ago as we look at Sawinski's career record at ASA competition. Larry Foyt winning the consolation race yesterday, and we mentioned it was that the first time a father and son had won at the same track, because AJ is his adoptive dad, of course, and they have won here. The answer is no, that other fathers and sons, including the Sauters, Jim and Tim, had won here, and Michael and Mario Andretti in kart champ car competition over the years. So,
where did you dig that up?
Well, our crack statistical team downstairs came up with that for us. And, of course, Al and Bobby Unser had won here as well. Not father and son, but brothers. They certainly among the family acts that had won here. And Al Unser Jr.'s won here as well. So that father and son combination had won here also. Larry Foyt working on Ricky Johnson for position. He wants 6th, and I think Larry Foyt's going to get it as they come down hard into turn 1. And he gets by. 8 laps to go, and Larry Foyt picks up the spot from Ricky Johnson. Good drive for Larry Foyt here today.
Well, he's got got confidence right now, Rick. You can tell it. With the car right on his outside bumper there, number to number, wheel to wheel, and Larry's just holding his line. Buddy Baker said, holding a pretty wheel.
He is doing a great job indeed. As we watch that battle continue to rage, Foyt cleanly passed now and down into turn 1. Sawinski right there as well on the 21 car. He sits 8th, but give Larry Foyt a solid 6th. And he'll see if he can get up and chase Gary St.Amant now, who is running in 5th position.
If Gary St.Amant can finish 5th or better, his 12th top 5 of the season. That's unbelievable, Rick.
There's St.Amant right behind Joey Clanton. St.Amant in the 7 car, the Wins Goodwrench Chevrolet. Clanton up ahead of the EchoSource.com Chevrolet. Make that the Pontiac, we should say, the 83. They are running 4th and 5th right now up onto the back straightaway. Coming up 5 laps to go. There'll be 5 to go next time by. Mike Garvey is 3.2 seconds ahead of Mike Cope. Scott Frazier is close to Cope as they battle for 2nd. This is the battle for 4th spot.
12 top 5s. I just can't get over that number, Rick. 15 races, 12 top 5s. That's incredible, and that's why Gary St.Amant's leading the points.
By 326 markers, Sawinski in 2nd spot is going to lose more ground, it looks like, to St.Amant. Not a lot of ground. The gap between 5th, which is where St.Amant is, and 8th, in terms of points earned, is not that large, but Sawinski can't afford to lose any more ground. He needs St.Amant to have some problems, and Kevin needs to start winning some races.
But not only that, Gary St.Amant, yeah, he's in the top 5. He won his 2nd race last week, but Rick, he's also leading a lot. I mean, he's led 697 laps, which going into today's race, he was the overall leader of the season, but Mike Garvey will surpass him today. But Garvey's just getting it done everywhere.
Check back in on the battle for 2nd spot. Mike Cope in the 3 rides 2nd. Scott Frazier in the 00 sits 3rd. Now, Frazier was right on Cope's back bumper. We heard from pit road earlier that Cope had questions about whether his tires would take him all the way to the checkered flag with a fast race car. Seems as though the question's been answered. We've got 2 to go next time by, and Cope was able to hang on and hold off Frazier, at least at this point.
Yeah, Cope's a veteran, and it's like Butch Miller, who's so great on old tires. Those veterans know how to take care of their machinery and equipment to the end.
Frazier trying to get close and challenge. Here comes the 1 car of Mike Garvey. Show you the gap from the leader back to the battle for 2nd, Cope and Frazier. Riding 4th is Clanton, and he's not in your picture at the moment, so there's a good gap between Frazier and Clanton with 2 laps to go here at the Milwaukee Mile.
Boy, Mike Garvey will pick up his 4th win, and the other number he wants to get up is 4 DNFs, Rick.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
On board, Mike Garvey in the Tecumseh Chevrolet coming to the white flag this time by. Talk about holding a pretty wheel. He has not put a wheel wrong all afternoon.
Look at that, Rick. Hands at 10 and 2. Just eases into the corner. Oh, man, look at that. That is pretty. Isn't it? Great view down the backstretch.
Garvey knows he doesn't even need to turn his head to look at anybody at this point. He's taken the white flag, and he's heading to the house in the Tecumseh Chevrolet. It'll be his 4th win of the season, his 2nd mile track victory of the year. Remember, at Chicago, Garvey knocked off nearly $28,000. It'll be another big payday today from Mike Garvey from Minnesota, from Lakeville, Minnesota. Your winner, Mike Cope finishes 2nd. Scott Frazier finishes 3rd. Joey Clanton and Gary St.Amant, the rest of the top 5. Von Suss jumps off the War Wagon. And the Tecumseh Chevrolet team has scored a huge victory today here at the Milwaukee Mile for Garvey, the winner of the Time Warner Cable 200. A dominating ride over the last 100 miles. Got around Scott Hansen, beat back the challenge of Scott Frazier and Joey Clanton. And Mike Garvey has put another one into the win column, his 4th win of the 2000 season for Lefevre Racing. Take a time out. We'll be back to talk to the winner in Victory Lane in Milwaukee. Back live at the Milwaukee Mile, the Time Warner Cable 200 today, and Mike Garvey has scored a dominating win, his 4th of the season in the Tecumseh Chevrolet for Lefevre Racing. Garvey knew they would have a good race car today. Had a word with them this morning. They qualified for it, thought they had a car capable of running on the pole. They were a little off. Made a few adjustments, said, we're going to have a good race car today. And you knew the flat racetrack, the mile distance, suitable very much so for a guy of Garvey's talents. Garvey coming toward Victory lane. Bob Dillner is there, and we'll hear from him in just a moment as Mike Garvey undoes the belts, and he'll climb out here in Victory Circle on the front stretch at the Milwaukee Mile. Garvey gets a handshake from Bon Suss, and we'll talk to him in Victory Lane in just a moment. Mike's going to take the helmet off, get ready to celebrate his 4th victory of the season. And as Steve Burns has pointed out so many times, if not for those 4 times that they failed to finish, Garvey would be quite a factor in the season points chase that Gary St.Amant has dominated for so long.
Yeah, 4 DNFs and 4 wins. He'd be giving Gary St.Amant all he could handle right now.
Garvey out of the race car. You know he's excited about this one. Let's head downstairs to Bob Dillner.
Mike Garvey climbs out of the car, takes a look at the crowd, and says, yes, I won this one. 4th race, 4th win of the year. Oh, we didn't.
Oh, man.
Well, you got a little douse. You feel a little bit relieved now?
I'm freezing. Wow, is that cold? Oh, man.
Mike, an incredible performance. Just another dominating performance by this team. An incredible run you're on right now.
Man, I tell you, this team, but like we said all year long, the team's been so strong all year long. We had some problems, but I mean, this Tecumseh Monte Carlo was fast today. It's been fast all weekend, and we thought we had a good car in the race, and just try to take our time and be patient. And everybody, last year we tried to dedicate this to Grandpa, and this year we finally got it for him. So.
An air of confidence around this team today, Mike. You guys knew you were going to win this race.
We knew we had a shot at it. I mean, we knew if everything went right, didn't have any problems. I mean, I've got an awesome pit crew. I mean, I don't have to pass cars in the track. We can pass them in the pits. It's just it's awesome. I mean, it's a dream come true for me. This is the kind of organization I want to race with. I want to be around. Not just our teammates, but we're all friends too. So it's just awesome.
A lot of emotion surrounding this team right now. Of course, Bon Suss, the crew chief, Mike Garvey mentioned. Bon lost his grandfather a year ago today, and they're celebrating right now with a win here in remembrance of him.
Team owner Scott Lefevre coming in to congratulate his driver. Let's find out more on Victory Lane. Some of the drivers who ran well today to Jim Trader.
Well, Mike Hope had to make it through the qualifying race yesterday, Mike. You started 24th this afternoon with yesterday's laps. Did that help in your run to the front?
Yeah, it definitely did. You know, we qualified terribly. We were pretty fast off the truck, but I learned a lot yesterday, but I learned more so something today about myself, that I can still drive one of these things. And that made all the difference in the world. You know, there's people that's been behind me for a long time, good friends of mine, Charlie and Kim White, that supported this thing. And whenever you've been through the ups and downs I have, finishing second here for the 3rd time in different divisions isn't such a bad thing.
Mike, I understand you're going to full assault on 2001. What are your rest of 2000 plans here in ASA?
We're going to run Memphis and then Winchester and Gateway now. I talked to Charlie the other night. He said, let's go to Gateway. It'd be a good place to entertain, good place for Mannheim. You know, the Florida Auto Auction of Orlando is the largest in the country, and they sell a lot of cars down there. It's great for the dealers all over the place. So Gateway's you know, an open opportunity for them. We're going to go there. But next year, running for the championship is going to be great. We had open spots in this car, too, so I've got to remember that.
Guys, he's also a great addition to ASA. He was welcomed with open arms. You can see he's got a great amount of talent, making this the greatest American short track series.
Former All-Pro champion, NASCAR Busch Series and Truck Series veteran Mike Cope with a great run today to 2nd spot here at the Milwaukee Mile. A lot of other drivers we want to talk to before we bid you farewell this afternoon. We'll do that after this timeout at the Milwaukee Mile. Now, the 20,000 or so fans that came today to the Milwaukee Mile saw some terrific action. And Garvey, your winner for the 4th time this year. But any other drivers with interesting stories to tell of the 200-mile chase here today? Let's head back downstairs.
Well, Rick, this guy may be the surprise of the season so far. Scott Frazier, 4 races, 4 top 10s, 2 top 5s. What's the secret? Why are you guys running so well with limited experience here?
I don't know why we are. It just seemed that every track we've been to so far that I've been able to adapt real quick, qualify good, and stay up front. And our biggest thing is new for us is our pit stops. Down home, we don't do much for pit stops, so it's a learning experience for us, and we're having great luck, too.
We saw that on one of the pit stops here today, but you did get the 3rd place finish. I know you're very happy with that, but also a little contact with Johnny Sauter out there today.
Yeah, the yellow come out, and we went into turn 1, and it was my own fault. I didn't get woed up quick enough, and I got into the back of him. It was too bad. He had a real good car, too, and a real good run going. And it's something like myself. He needed a good run, and I needed a good run, and it's too bad. Sorry for it.
Scott Frazier, a good enough a man to admit that he might have made a mistake out there. And check out those glasses. He's got TNN Motorsports glasses. That's pretty cool. To Jim.
Boy. I started having to run a different...
Jim Trado also down on pit road for us today. That ensures Scott Frazier more coverage on our next telecast, I'm sure.
More TV time.
Well, Jim Trado standing by with a couple of drivers who figured in the chase here today, including the series point leader.
Heavily engulfed and finishing his 12th top 5 finish. Gary, talking to your crew chief, Bill McGowan, during the race, he said that's about all the car had, but a top 5 is something you can take home proudly.
Well, you know, we got the wins GM Goodwrench Chevrolet, the best at the end of the race where it counted. And, you know, we raced Joey pretty hard there. And as loose as he was, we were tight. And, you know, we had pretty equal cars there at the end. So it's a good run for us.
Rookie Joey Clanton finishing 4th, picking up some valuable points. But tell us about when you found out you had 4th gear and how were you able to hold these guys off?
About lap 60, I had been shifting the whole race, and I lost 3rd gear. And then 1st and 2nd went out with it. So all we could do was run in 4th. It was kind of hard on restarts, just the 4th gear, and I sat there and watched Gary in the mirror there them last 50 laps and just try to hold him off of EchoSource83.com Pontiac, and just, I don't know, I just held on, just try to run a line, change the line, just hold him off. I watched him back there and just try to keep him behind me.
Here at America's legendary oval, the Milwaukee Mile.
And we'll take a look at the full field now as we hear the thoughts of Joey Clanton. Mike Garvey, your winner, and Mike Cope with a good run to second. You heard from Scott Frazier and Joey Clanton and Gary St.Amant. Great run for Larry Foyt, Steve. We talked about how he had come from the back after winning the Consi. Made steady progress all day. It's not as though pit stops put him up front and he hung on. He just soldiered through the field to finish 6th.
Did a great job in that race car for a career best finish. And how about Russ Tuttle coming home in 12th, chasing bad guys down and tackling them? You know, this is like golf for him out there on the race car.
It is truly. Only 12 cars make it 13 on the lead lap, so a tough day for Tim Sauter, the defending series champion. We saw Tim credited back there with a 16th place finish today as we take a look at Mark Dismore in 21st and Ricky Bryant 22nd, and Mark Plows all the way from Australia finishing 23rd. And the final few finishers today, Matt Sealski was the first car out. Pat Kelly, who expected to have a great day today, the Chicagoland late model star in his 2nd start, finishes 37th. Scott Wimmer with no brakes, 36th. Tough day for him. And some of those other drivers were drivers we thought would have great chances at contending here today, but the brakes just did not go their way. Everyone's still applauding Mike Garvey here at Milwaukee. We'll come back with plenty more at the Milwaukee Mile. Back live at the Milwaukee Mile, West Allis, Wisconsin. The Time Warner Cable 200 complete today. Mike Garvey is your winner as the teams load up, and they've got, Steve, a little extra time because the next ASA event is next Monday, but still more of that 9-race string to move us toward the latter part of the 2000 season. 15 races done now, 5 left in the year, and we mentioned Kevin Sawinski lost 15 points today to Gary St.Amant, so the mountain he has to climb even tougher. But how about Mike Garvey getting to 3rd in the point standings?
400 points out, and also Joey Clanton has now taken the lead. You see Joey there 9th, Scott Wimmer 10th. Joey has taken the points lead in the Rookie of the Year battle. He said that's his goal, and he's taken the lead.
He's been very patient all year. Wimmer had that early success, the 2 wins at Lanier and Hickory, but since then they've struggled, and today 36th the finish for Wimmer with a brake failure on the car. Clanton, meantime, with another nice 4th place run, but maybe the drive of the day belongs to the young driver of the Harrah's Casinos 14 car standing by with Bob Dillner.
Rick, the next place that Larry Foyt wants to be is that right there, the podium. A 6th place run for Larry today, an awesome finish. A big confidence boost for this team, I'm sure, after a couple of bad runs.
It is. You know, it's no fun to sit down here and watch those guys up there celebrating, but we've got some time. Today was a big improvement, and we're going to get there.
What did the little vacation that you took, some of the testing that you've done over the past couple weeks, what did that do for the team?
Well, you know just as good as anybody, Bob, that I've had an up and down season. We've run good, and then we've run terrible some races. And this is my first year with really the media attention and a big sponsor like Harrah's. And the pressure was just, I thought I needed a vacation to get my focus back, and I think it paid off for us.
Rick, Steve, I think we're going to see a lot more from this guy before the season is out.
I'll tell you, if today's any indication on the 1-mile track today, he certainly did a great job. And as we mentioned, he got stronger as the afternoon went on.
Yeah, great performance. And like you said, Rick, he didn't look out. It wasn't a matter of a good break. He got the job done on the racetrack.
Great visit here to the Milwaukee Mile, as always. We look forward to next season, of course, coming back here. This is one of the traditional stops on the ASA Tour. And next Monday, one of the real traditional ones, and Steve, I know you'll enjoy your visit to the Minnesota State Fair up in St. Paul. Monday afternoon, Labor Day Monday, 3 o'clock Eastern and Pacific for our coverage of the Miller Lite 300 here on TNN Sports.
I want to get one of those big drumsticks.
Well, you'll have your chance. Cheese curd, and you name it. You name it. Elephant ears, all you could ask for there. No doubt about it. Well, we hope you enjoyed our coverage today of the Time Warner Cable 200 from the Milwaukee Mile, America's legendary oval, the 15th round of the 2000 ASA campaign. For Bob Dillner and Jim Trado and Steve Burns, I'm Rick Benjamin. We'll see you next Monday at the Minnesota State Fair. Our congratulations to Mike Garvey and the Tecumseh Chevrolet team. We'll see you on race day next Sunday at 11 and Monday afternoon from the Minnesota State Fair. Thanks for watching, everybody.